As a volunteer with the employer support of the Guard and Reserve, I'm here today to share some basic information with you about employment and reemployment rights under the law in connection with your military service. This will be a quick overview, but an ESGR representative will be available either in person or through our toll-free call center for any specific or additional questions you may have. And you may have to share this information at the end of the briefing. Here are the items we'll cover today. We will talk briefly about ESGR and our mission, especially how it relates to the Uniformed Services Employment and Reemployment Rights Act, or USERRA. Then we will talk about your rights and responsibilities under USERRA, as well as how you can work with your employer with ESGR's assistance to develop a more positive work environment. Then we will briefly discuss how ESGR can help you and your employer resolve issues. We'll wrap it up by telling you where to go and who to contact with additional questions. What is ESGR? We are a Department of Defense program that informs service members and civilian employers about their rights and responsibilities under USERRA, rewards employers for great support, and assist in resolving conflicts related to military service. We like to say, we educate, recognize, and mediate. So what is USERRA? The Uniformed Services Employment and Reemployment Rights Act was enacted in 1994 to protect the civilian employment of active and reserve military personnel in the United States who have been called to federal active duty. USERRA is a federal law that applies to federal deployments. It does not apply in instances of state active duty. However, many states have similar state laws which apply in that situation. While ESGR educates about USERRA, the law is actually enforced by the Department of Labor. By law, here's what an employer must provide you when you return from military service. Your employer does not have to pay you while you are on duty, but you should not be forced to take vacation or sick leave. You should be promptly reinstated at your job and continue to accumulate seniority, pension plans, etc., as if you had never left. Your health insurance benefits should be reinstated. If your job requires it, you should receive training and retraining in job skills. You should not be discriminated against because of your military service. You have responsibilities too. You have to do the right thing by your employer and give as much advance notice as possible of impending periods of service. We recommend at least 30 days notice before you go on orders, if at all possible. There is no mandatory format for the notice, so in most cases, email is fine. Be understanding of your employer. Don't go to work on Friday to say you're leaving Monday for a 9-month deployment. While that might be legal, it can lead to bad relationships with your employer, and your employer has the right to contact your chain of command to confirm period, time, and duration of service. Your responsibilities include serving under honorable conditions, dishonorable, bad conduct, and other than honorable discharges, dismissal and drop from the rolls, forfeit USERRA protection. Finally, you must return to work in a timely fashion, and the next slide will show you the return to work guidelines. To maintain reemployment rights under USERRA, you must report back to work or apply for reemployment in accordance with the following time schedule. Though not required, you should submit your application for reemployment in writing. This is not the same as someone applying for the position for the first time, but rather applying for reinstatement. A sample application is available on the ESGR website at www.esgr.mil. If you serve 1 to 30 days of service, you must report back to work on the next scheduled workday after safe return home and 8 hours of rest. This would be typically your drill or annual training periods. from 31 days to 180 days of service, you must submit an application for reemployment within 14 days after release from the period of service. This gives you and your employer time to coordinate your return with pay periods, etc. If you have 180 days or more of service, you must submit that application for reemployment within 90 days after release from the period of service. Again, just because you can wait 90 days doesn't mean you should wait the full period to reapply. You are entitled to use any portion of the time to apply up to the maximum time allowed, but you should coordinate your date of return with your employer. Here is some additional information about USERRA. Please note, while USERRA reemployment rights don't apply if the cumulative absences for military duty from the same employer exceed 5 years, there are many periods of service that are excluded, such as your drill weekends, annual training, involuntary active duty orders, and even some voluntary service for operational missions where service members have been involuntarily ordered to active duty, such as service in Iraq and Afghanistan. Complex issues such as exclusions from the 5-year limit should be addressed with your employer, an ESGR ombudsman, and your chain of command. Your employer is not required to allow you to make up periods of work missed for military service, and you are not required to find your own replacement while on military orders. This is how ESGR can help educate your employer, not just on the law, but on what you and your fellow reserve service members do. We inform employers at briefings similar to this one, at professional gatherings, and if you would like, we could invite your boss to observe and experience unit training on one of our periodic boss lifts, or plan a one-on-one briefing with the boss, where we will explain how important your work and their support is to national security. We would like to invite your employers to these events. However, we need to know who you work for, so check with your leadership to find out if they want to provide that information. Do you have an employer who is supporting you? ESGR can help. Recognize those employers who are doing the right thing. Nominate your boss for My Boss is a Patriot. You can submit a nomination online, and your spouse's employer is eligible as well. If you, like ESGR, can arrange to present the award at your place of business if your employer does more than just the minimum, such as paying you the difference between your salary and your military pay, or helping out when you are deployed. You can nominate them for other awards such as Above and Beyond or Freedom Award. Details on these awards are available at www.esgr.mil. Another way to recognize supportive employers is by completing a Statement of Support. The SOS is signed by the Secretary of Defense, the ESGR National Chairman, and your employer, and affirms your employer's commitment to support the National Guard and Reserve service members. Contact your local ESGR committee through esgr.mil to discuss both the awards and the SOS program and what we can do to help you. If you have a problem with your employer that is related to your Guard or Reserve service, here are some options to help you. Contact ESGR. Call the 800 number. A trained, experienced ESGR national representative will attempt to resolve the issue. If he or she can't answer your questions, the representative will refer you to a trained ESGR ombudsman who, in your area, ombudsmen are informal mediators, not advocates, who help resolve service-related conflicts with employers. If the ESGR ombudsman is not available to successfully resolve the issue, you can contact the Department of Labor to have your issue reviewed. Department of Labor may require you contact ESGR before contacting them. You may contact a private attorney at any time, but you must pay the cost for that personally. And contacting an attorney may prevent you from obtaining help from ESGR later. And keep your chain of command informed. If you have a service-connected conflict with an employer and what steps you may take to resolve it, let them know. The most important thing to take away from the briefing is that communication is key in keeping a positive relationship with your employer. Let ESGR help maintain and improve that relationship through our tenets of educate, recognize, and mediate. Again, thank you for your service, and please don't hesitate to contact ESGR with any questions or concerns.